Good day. We're continuing our reflections on Genesis, the first chapters. Last week we looked at how sin spreads, going from the eating of the forbidden fruit, disobeying God's command, to the ugliness of murder itself, fratricide, brother, killing brother. That was the fourth chapter. The fifth chapter we're going to go skating through, barely stopping, and then we're going to begin the section that goes from the sixth chapter through the eighth chapter on Noah. The fifth chapter is the generations from Adam to Noah, and it gives us a picture of incredible vitality that God puts in human beings. Incredible. No, more than you think, because everybody lives 800 years or 900 years. Everybody. In all 10 generations from Adam and all, they're living that long. But they don't get started on families till they're 80 or 90 or 100 years old, which the point of which is to say, God puts a vitality in us, power of life that's intense. And even if we haven't eaten of the fruit of eternal life, God's put something very potent in us. But all that potency is actually, as we pick up the story in the fifth chapter, part of a decline, a ferocious decline that's not just brother killing brother, but it spreads out into all of creation becoming twisted and corrupt. That's what we have in the sixth chapter. Let's read the first 4 verses. Chapter 6, Genesis. When human beings began to grow numerous in the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw how beautiful the daughters of human beings were, and they took for their wives whomever they pleased. Then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not remain in human beings forever, because they are only flesh. Their days shall be comprised of 120 years. The Nephilim appeared on the earth in those days, as well as later, after the sons of God had intercourse with the daughters of human beings who bore them sons. They were the heroes of old, the men of renown." There's a lot of stuff that isn't developed, that are kind of teasers in this. But it gets to the point of this spreading corruption. And it's not just because women are beautiful, and that's the problem. It's not, certainly not, that's not the problem. But you have a corruption that jumps across the boundaries of species and creatures. And who are the sons of God? Some people read that as angels. Some people read that as the sense of other layers of beings above human beings, whether angels or something like that. But whatever it is, and it's not developed, so you don't have to figure it out, it sends a message that something's happened, that there's a crossing over that should never be. What's intriguing about it is that the Nephilim, the folks who have been begotten of this strange jumping across, this wrong jumping across, become the heroes that you've heard about and the famous ones. Now, who are the famous ones and who are these heroes? Well, that's interesting, because all the ones you know in the Bible come later. It's none of them folks that you know in the Bible. Who are they talking about? Well, mind your own business. You don't need to know. They are people who are great and renowned, powerful, and we know how this works, don't we? You know how it works. That often gifted, powerful, famous people can be corrupt. And fame and power and influence and ability to get things done does not mean that people have integrity. And it does not mean that people are on the right path, even though what they have are just such creative potency, capacity to get things done and work. But part of the corruption is that the good and strength can get twisted. That fame, heroic things can have something darker underneath. So let's continue reading. When the Lord saw how great the wickedness of human beings was on the earth, and how every desire that their heart conceived was always nothing but evil, the Lord regretted making the human beings on the earth, and his heart was grieved. So the Lord said, I will wipe out from the earth the human beings I have created. Not only the human beings, but also the animals and crawling things and the birds of the air, for I regret that I've made them. But Noah found favor with the Lord. Or being set up for the flood. And at the heart of it is not rage, it's regret. God saying, there's something here that there's a sadness that go with regret of something that moved forward and it didn't turn out according to the best plans, best purposes. That now, it says, the desires of people are always getting turned toward something that's evil, that's away from God, away from justice and charity. And we know that there's a remnant of that reality in our world yet. That we look that sometimes there's good intention, and underneath it, there's mixed in some selfish intention. That people, and there's a famous story, the fellow, they said, he set out to do good, and he did very well for himself. That sometimes we start out charitably, and then all of a sudden, we are just, all our charity is back toward ourselves. And God regrets that it's gotten to this place. So, but we have Noah. So let's hear our little background on Noah. These are the descendants of Noah. Noah was a righteous man and blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But the earth was corrupt in the view of God and full of lawlessness. When God saw how corrupt the earth had become, since all mortals had corrupted their ways on earth, God said to Noah, I see that the end of all mortals has come, for the earth is full of lawlessness because of them. So I'm going to destroy them from the earth. There's an interesting dynamic here in Scripture that we see when we see a reset that God is planning. Because it sounds like, first of all, they're so lawless, that is not according to God's will. Lawlessness across all the earth, and it's this dark vision. But he's picking out Noah because it's not going to be everything that's going to be like in the good old days when we first got personal computers, and when anything went wrong, they told you, this is what you have to do. Control, Alt, Delete, turn off your computer for a minute, 2 minutes, and all the original settings will return. And all the stupid things that started worming in will get undone, that you stupidly clicked on or pushed through. Now there's a reset. So Control, Alt, Delete, turn off your computer, and restart. And the restart parallels the first start. Noah is now walking where Adam was. Adam and God would walk in the cool of the evening. That's when Adam falls. God is calling out to him in the cool of the evening, because they were in a custom of walking together in the cool of the evening. Cool of the evening walking together because they had worked together. That the first, all living things had come forth with God working with Adam. That they planted the Eden, that Adam was presented all the creatures and named every living thing. So God and Adam were involved in that. And we'll see how Noah is a reboot, a reset of this. So Noah walks with God, and God is going to be talking to him about, how do we do this restart? Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Equip the ark with various compartments and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you shall build it. The length of the ark will be 300 cubits. Its width 50 cubits, its height 30 cubits. Make an opening for the daylight and finish the ark a cubit above it. Put the ark's entrance on the side. You'll make it with bottom, second and third decks. I, on my part, am about to bring the floodwaters on the earth, to destroy all creatures under the sky in which there is breath of life. Everything on the earth shall perish. I will establish my covenant with you. You shall go into the ark, you and your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. Of all the creatures you shall bring 2 of every kind into the ark, 1 male, 1 female, to keep them alive, along with you. Of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, every kind of thing that crawls on the earth, 2 of which will come to you, that you may keep them alive. Moreover, you are to provide yourself with all the food that is to be eaten and stored away, that it may serve as provisions for you and for them. Noah complied. He did just as God had commanded him. See again how God's working with Noah. Noah's going to do the hammering and the putting together. God has laid out. This is how many, and a cubit is from the tip of your finger to your elbow. You wondered about that, but now you know. But God lays out what's the shape of the ark and the details of it, what sort of wood you're supposed to use, the size of it, where's the door, different levels, and also how you're going to bring animals in. And he's trusting Noah to keep them alive. And this is going back to that initial creation where the human being is given dominion, that is supposed to be the one to help guide creation for the glory of God. And so this is the reboot. This is the reset, that one of everything, so the initial setup, initial settings are going to be back together. Noah, back to the beginning, is going to be the one who's going to help put together God's plan, and he's going to be the one who helps keep these animals alive. And this is the covenant. Covenant. This is the first time the word covenant is really used, and that means there's a bond now that they're put together. It's not a contract, because a contract means I do this as long as you do that. That you pay me this, I do that. As long as I do that, you got to pay me this. A covenant means, well, it's like marriage. It's that we're going to be in this together. And you and I, it's us. From now on, we're together in all this stuff. And so Noah reestablished the covenant between God and human beings. It's the opposite of lawlessness, is that from now on, we belong to him, and he does. And that's the foundation of the reset world order. Think about your own lives. What would a reset look like in your life? If you got back to the most fundamental relationship with God and your world, where God's Spirit, God's law, God's way was at the center of who you were, center of your motivations, how you dealt with people and your world. May God bless you.